All right, moving on with the magic items. One thing we'll have is the Mighty Servant of Leuk-O. That's this thing you see right here, which basically is a giant magical tank construct. Then we'll look at the moonsicle, nature's mantle, and the outer essence shard too. So taking a look at this giant constructed artifact right here. Named for the warlord who infamously employed it, the Mighty Servant of Leuk-O is a fantastically powerful 10-foot tall machine that turns into an animate construct when piloted. And it takes 2 people to pilot this thing. Crafted of a gleaming black alloy, so we know exactly what's in it, of unknown origin. The servant is often described as a combination of a disproportioned dwarf and an oversized beetle. The servant contains enough space for 1 ton of cargo and a crew compartment within from which up to 2 medium creatures can control it and potentially execute a spree of unstoppable destruction. Tales of the servant's origins involve more conjecture than facts. Evidently, they don't know a lot about this thing. Often referring to otherworldly beings, the mysterious barrier peaks in Oerth, and the supposedly related device known as the Machine of Lum the Mad. The best details on the device's origins and operation can be found in the Mind of Metal, a tome of artificers' secrets that connects the device to the traditions of the lost Ulman people, and which was written by Lum the Mad's several times over granddaughter, Lum the Maestro, while she reconstructed the long disassembled Mighty Servant of Leuk-O. So a lot of background information right there. Somebody probably make a whole video on just what all that's about. So they mention a dangerous attunement. 2 creatures can be attuned to the servant at a time. If a third tries to attune, nothing happens. The servant's controls are accessed by a latch in its upper back, which is easily opened while there are no creatures attuned to the artifact. Attuning to the artifact requires 2 hours, which can be undertaken as part of a long rest, during which time you must be inside the servant, interacting with its controls. You're studying these controls, figuring out how to use them. While crew members are attuning themselves, any creature or structure outside and within 50 feet of the servant has a 25% chance of being accidentally targeted by one of its destructive fist attacks once during the attunement. So you want to be out in the open, not near anything, or something's going to accidentally get hit, killed, or damaged. This process must be undergone every time a creature attunes itself to the artifact. So every time that happens, there's always that danger of something being accidentally hit. Controlling the servant. While any creatures are attuned to the artifact, attuned creatures can open the hatch as easily as any other door. Other creatures can open the hatch as an action with a successful DC 25 dexterity check using Thieves' Tools, so not going to be easy. A knock spell cast on the hatch can also open it until the start of the caster's next turn. A creature can enter or exit through the hatch by spending 10 feet of movement. Those inside the servant have total cover from effects originating outside it. The controls within it allow creatures to see outside without obstruction. While you're inside the servant, you can command it by using the controls. During your turn, for either attuned creature, you can command it in the following ways. So 1, open or close the hatch. 2, move the servant up to its speed. We'll see that in a second. As an action, you can command the servant to take one of the actions in its stat block or some other action. And then last, when a creature provokes an opportunity attack from the servant, you can use your reaction to command the servant to make 1 destructive fist attack against that creature. So while there are no unattuned creatures inside, it's just an inert object. In other words, it sits, does nothing, at least for the most part, until they mention this ghost in the machine. Upon his death, the soul of the mighty warlord Luk-O was drawn into the artifact and has become its animating force. The servant has been known to attack or move on its own accord, particularly if doing so will cause destruction. Once every 24 hours, the servant, at the DM's discretion, takes 1 action while uncrewed. So this thing does something all on its own. If the servant loses half of its hit points or more, each creature attuned to it must succeed on a DC 20. Let's see what they got to say right here. A DC 20 wisdom saving throw, or be charmed for 24 hours. While charmed in this way, the creature goes on a destructive spree, seeking to destroy structures and attack any unattuned creatures within sight of the servant, starting with those threatening the artifact, preferably using the servant if possible. So that could actually take over and charm you for 24 hours. But let's look back at this thing's stat block and see what they tell us about it. So you can see it's a huge construct. They got armor class 22, 310 hit point, speed of 60. That's going to run almost anything down. Has a strength of 30, a con of 20 right there. Now look at these saving throws. They're good. Has damage resistance to piercing and slashing. Damage immunities to acid, bludgeoning, cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant. Condition immunities to everything but invisible and prone. Blind sight to 120 feet, and the list goes on. Has this immutable existence. The servant is immune to any spell or effect that would alter its form or send it to another plane. Magic resistance construction. The servant has advantage on saving throws against spells, and other magical effects and spell attacks made against it have disadvantage. It regenerates 10 hit points. Has a standing leap of 50 feet and a high jump of 25. It doesn't require air, food, drink, sleep. You'd think it'd require gasoline or something, but it doesn't. Has a destructive fist. Now look at this, plus 17 to hit. Going to do 4d12 plus 10 force damage. If the target is an object, triple that. Has a crushing leap where it can leap up to 25 feet. And let's see, as part of its movement, it can use this action to land on its feet in a space that contains one or more other creatures. Each of those creatures is pushed to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the servant and must make a DC 25 Dex saving throw. On a failed save, the creature will take 4d12 bludgeoning damage and are knocked prone. On a successful, half damage and knock prone. So this thing has just got a huge list of immunities. You just have to stop and think first, what are you even going to do damage to this thing? Then you consider the armor class and the hit points. This thing is tough. It also has a self-destruct. By inputting a specific series of lever pulls and button presses, the servant's 2 crew members can cause it to explode. The self-destruct code is not revealed to crew members when they attune to the artifact, so it's going to be a bit of a secret. If the code is discovered, DM will determine how. It requires 2 attuned crew members to be inside the servant and spend their actions on 3 consecutive rounds performing the command. Should the crew members begin the process of entering the code, the servant uses its ghost in the machine property and turns the crew members against each other. If the crew members successfully implement the code, at the end of the 3rd round, the servant explodes. This thing's going to fight back, but if this is all successful, it's going to explode. Every creature within 100-foot radius sphere centered on the servant must make a DC 25 dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, they're going to take 25 d6 of force damage, 25 d6 of lightning, and 25 d6 of thunder. Well, that's going to take out just about anything that's within 100 feet of it. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage. They might possibly make it. Objects and structures in the area take triple damage. Creatures inside the servant are slain instantly and leave behind no remains, not even ashes to bring back right there. This does not destroy the servant permanently. Rather, 2d6 days later, its parts, left arm, left leg, right arm, right leg, left torso, and upper torso, or excuse me, it was lower and upper torso, drop from the sky in random places within 1,000 miles of the explosion. So think about it, I guess it blew them 1,000 miles apart. If brought within 5 feet of one another, the pieces reconnect and reform. So if you bring them back close together, the whole thing will start over. Destroying the servant can be destroyed in 2 ways. After it has self-destructed, its disconnected pieces can be melted down in one of the forged temples of its ancient omen creators. Alternatively, if the servant strikes the machine of Lum the Mad, both artifacts explode in an eruption that is 3 times the size and 3 times the damage as the servant's self-destruct. Good grief, you talk about destructive power. So That's one of the best artifacts they've ever put in the game. Then we have the moonsicle. Now notice you can have a +1, 2, or 3, depending on its rarity. Must be attuned by a druid or a ranger, so they're going to like this sickle here. This silver-bladed sickle glimmers softly with moonlight. While holding this magic weapon, you gain a bonus to attack and damage rolls, both made with it. And you gain a bonus to spell attack rolls and the saving throw DCs of your druid and ranger spells. This thing's going to be huge for a druid or a ranger. The bonus is determined by the weapon's rarity, as we saw, 1, 2, or 3. In addition, you can use the sickle as a spell-casting focus for your druid or ranger spells, so that is a must-have for those classes there. When you cast a spell that restores hit points, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the amount of hit points restored, provided you're holding the sickle, so even going to heal you up better. Then we have Nature's Mantle. Wondrous item here. Got to have a druid or a ranger for this one. This cloak shifts color and texture to blend with the terrain surrounding you. While wearing the cloak, you can use it as a spell-casting focus for your druid and ranger spells. While you're in an area that's lightly obscured, you can hide as a bonus action even if you're being directly observed. So another nice item there for druids and rangers. Then we have this outer essence shard. This one must be attuned by a sorcerer. This flickering crystal holds the essence of an outer plane. As an action, you can attach the shard to a tiny object, weapon, or jewelry as before. Roll a d4 and consult the outer essence shard table to determine the shard's essence and property. So with this, like many of these other items, there's actually like 4 different types of it. So here's what you could get. Number 1, lawful. You can end one of the following conditions affecting yourself or one creature you can see within 30 feet. So you could remove a charmed, blinded, deafened, frightened, poisoned, or stunned. Nice. 2, you could get chaotic. Choose one creature who takes damage from the spell. That target has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks made before the start of your next turn. Number 3 is good. Your one creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet gains 3d6 temporary hit points. That's nice. And then lastly, for the evil, choose one creature who takes damage from the spell. That target takes an extra 3d6 necrotic damage. So there's your 4 different possible types of shards. So some very interesting items right there, especially that giant mechanized suit that you can pilot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time, good luck and good gaming.